Hi there! Welcome back to American Lingo Academy. I'm Luna, and today we're going to learn 10 super useful English expressions that native speakers use all the time in everyday conversation. These are phrases you'll hear at work, at home, with friends, and in so many different situations. So grab a cup of coffee or tea, get comfortable, and let's dive right in. Number 1. Bend over backwards. This is an idiom, and it means to try extremely hard to help someone or to do something difficult for them. When you bend over backwards for someone, you're putting in a lot of effort, maybe even more than usual, to make them happy or to help them succeed. It shows that you really care about helping that person. For example, imagine your best friend is getting married next month, and she's really stressed about planning everything. You offer to help her with the decorations, you drive her to meet the caterer, and you even stay up late making handmade wedding favors. Your friend says to another person, "She's been bending over backwards to help me with this wedding. I'm so lucky to have her." Here's another one. Let's say you work at a hotel and a guest arrives late at night. They're really tired and hungry, but the kitchen is already closed. You call the chef at home, ask him to come back, and prepare a special meal for the guest. Your manager sees this and tells you, "You really bent over backwards for that guest tonight. That was excellent customer service." Number 2, all-time high. This is a phrase we use to describe when something reaches its highest point or level ever in history. We often use it when talking about prices, numbers, temperatures, or records. If something is at an all-time high, it means it has never been this high before. For example, imagine you're watching the news with your family, and the reporter says, "Gas prices have reached an all-time high this week. Drivers across the country are paying more at the pump than ever before." This means that the price of gasoline is higher now than it has been at any other point in the past. Here's another one. Let's say you're having a conversation with your coworker about your company, and your coworker mentions that sales numbers just came out. She says, "Our sales are at an all-time high this quarter. The new marketing strategy is really working." This means your company has sold more products or services than it ever has before. Number 3, all in a day's work. This means something is just a normal part of your job or routine, nothing special or unusual. When someone says it's all in a day's work, they're being humble about something they did, suggesting it wasn't a big deal because it's what they normally do. For example, imagine you're a firefighter and you just rescued a cat from a tall tree. The cat's owner is extremely grateful and keeps saying, "Thank you so much. You're a hero." You smile and reply, "Oh, it's all in a day's work. Don't worry about it." By saying this, you're being modest and letting them know that helping people and animals is just part of your regular job. Here's another one. Let's say your neighbor asks you to help them move some heavy furniture, and you spend your Saturday afternoon helping them. When you're done, they try to give you money as a thank you, but you refuse. You say, "No need to pay me. It's all in a day's work for a good neighbor." Number 4, I take that back. This is a phrase we use when we want to cancel or change something we just said. Maybe you said something wrong, something you didn't mean, or something that came out incorrectly. When you say "I take that back," you're telling the other person to forget what you just said because you want to correct yourself. For example, imagine you're talking with your friend about a restaurant you went to last weekend. You say the food was terrible. Actually, wait, I take that back. The pasta was really good, but the pizza wasn't great. You realize that your first statement was too harsh and not completely true, so you immediately corrected yourself using this phrase. Here's another one. Let's say you're arguing with your brother about whose turn it is to wash the dishes. You get frustrated and say, "You never help around the house." But then you remember that he actually cleaned the bathroom yesterday. You realize you were being unfair, so you say, "Okay, I take that back. You do help. I'm just tired tonight." Number 5, I didn't go in. This is a simple sentence that means you didn't enter a place or building. We use this when we're explaining to someone that we stayed outside or that we changed our mind about entering somewhere. For example, imagine your friend calls you and asks, "Hey, did you go to the store and buy the milk like you planned?" You answer, "Well, I drove to the store, but when I got there, the parking lot was completely packed. It looked so crowded inside, so I didn't go in. I'll try again tomorrow." Here's another one. Let's say you're at work and your boss asks if you talked to the new client who came by the office earlier. You explain, "I saw him waiting in the lobby, but I was on an important phone call. I didn't go in to meet him because I didn't want to interrupt my call. I'll introduce myself tomorrow instead." Number 6, to the letter. This is an idiom that means to follow rules, instructions, or directions exactly and precisely without making any changes or mistakes. When you do something to the letter, you're being very careful to do it perfectly according to what was written or said. For example, imagine you're baking a cake for the first time using your grandmother's famous recipe. Your sister asks how it turned out and you say, "It's perfect. I followed the recipe to the letter, measuring everything exactly and baking it for the exact time she wrote down." Here's another one. Let's say you work in a lab where safety is extremely important. Your supervisor is training a new employee, and she tells you, "Make sure he follows all the safety protocols to the letter. We can't afford any mistakes with these chemicals." Number 7, what of it? This is a phrase we use when we're being a bit defensive or challenging. It means "so what" or "why does that matter?" People often say this when someone points out something about them, and they want to show that they don't think it's a problem, or that it's none of the other person's business. For example, imagine you're sitting in a coffee shop reading a romance novel, and your friend notices and says with a teasing smile, "I didn't know you liked those kinds of books." You might respond, "Yeah, I do. What of it?" You're basically saying that you're not embarrassed about your choice, and you're questioning why they think it's worth commenting on. Here's another one. Let's say your coworker notices that you've been leaving work exactly at 5 o'clock every day this week. He comments, "You've been leaving right on time lately." You reply, "Yes, I have. What of it? I finish my work, so there's no reason to stay late." Number 8, I just left the house. This is a simple sentence we use to tell someone that we recently departed from home and we're now on our way somewhere. People say this very often when they're meeting someone and that person calls or texts to ask where they are. For example, imagine your friend is waiting for you at a restaurant, and she sends you a text asking, "Are you close?" You reply, "I just left the house, so I should be there in about 15 minutes depending on traffic." You're giving her a clear update that you've started your journey and providing an estimated arrival time. Here's another one. Let's say you're supposed to pick up your kids from school, and your spouse calls you sounding a little worried, asking if you remembered. You say, "Yes, don't worry. I just left the house and I'm heading there now. I'll be on time." Number 9, I'm heading out. This is a casual phrase that means you're about to leave, or you're in the process of leaving a place. We use this all the time to let people know we're departing. You might say this to your family before you leave home, to your coworkers before you leave the office, or to friends when you're about to go. For example, imagine you're working from home and you're on a video call with your team. It's almost 5 o'clock and you need to go pick up groceries before the store closes. You tell your colleagues, "Okay, everyone, I'm heading out now. I'll see you all tomorrow morning. Have a great evening." Here's another one. Let's say you're at your friend's house for dinner, and it's getting late. You have work early tomorrow morning, so you stand up and say, "Thank you so much for having me. The food was delicious. I'm heading out now because I have an early meeting tomorrow." Number 10, blow my top. This is an idiom that means to suddenly become very angry, to lose your temper, or to explode with anger. When someone blows their top, they can't control their anger anymore, and they express it strongly, sometimes by yelling or saying things they might regret later. For example, imagine your teenage son has been playing video games for hours instead of doing his homework like you asked him 3 times. Finally, you walk into his room and see he still hasn't started. You say to your friend later, "I tried to stay calm, but when I saw he still hadn't touched his homework, I just blew my top. I told him no more games for a week. Here's another one. Let's say you're at work and you've been working on an important project for weeks. Your coworker accidentally deletes all your files and there's no backup. Your friend asks how you reacted and you say, "Honestly, I almost blew my top right there in the office. But I took a deep breath and counted to 10 before saying anything." All right, that's it for today's lesson. We covered 10 really useful expressions that native English speakers use in everyday conversation. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow with more English expressions.